Welcome back, everyone, to English Unloose. I'm Miguel, and I'm super excited to be here with Maria today, ready to dive into a topic that I think so many of our listeners are going to find incredibly helpful.
Hey everyone! It's great to be back, Miguel. I completely agree. This is something that I actually struggled with a lot when I was learning English, and it's something I still see people struggling with. How do you actually get fluent and speak naturally without, constantly translating in your head?
Exactly. That's the core of it, isn't it? That moment when you're trying to say something and you can feel your brain going into like a translation overdrive. It's exhausting and it totally kills the flow of conversation. So today, we want to talk about a really simple but incredibly effective method, practicing English with daily questions and answering them naturally.
Oh, I love this. Daily questions. It sounds so straightforward, but there's a lot more to it than just, what did you have for breakfast, right?
Absolutely. While what did you have for breakfast is a perfectly valid question to start with, the real magic happens when you push yourself a little further, and crucially, when you focus on answering naturally. Not perfectly, not grammatically flawlessly every time, but genuinely, as if you were talking to a friend.
I think that's the biggest hurdle for so many people, the fear of making a mistake. You're so focused on getting every single word and every single tense just right that you freeze up, and then you say nothing at all, which is, ironically, the biggest mistake.
Exactly. The goal isn't perfection, it's communication. And that's what native speakers do. We make errors, we use filler words, we pause, we correct ourselves on the fly. That's natural speech, and that's what we want to encourage our listeners to embrace.
So let's get into it. How can someone start implementing this daily question practice? What's the first step?
All right, so step 1, find your questions. There are tons of resources online for daily conversation starters. You can also just think of things that happened to you that day. For example, a simple one to start. What was the most interesting thing you saw or heard today?
Ooh, I like that one. It's open-ended. It forces you to think beyond a yes or no answer. So what was the most interesting thing you saw or heard today? Okay, I'll try to answer naturally. Well, today actually I was on my way to the studio and I saw this tiny, tiny dog wearing a full sweater and little boots, and it was hilarious. It made me smile, It looked like a little fashionista.
See, that's perfect, Maria. You didn't stop and think, okay, past tense, regular verb, irregular verb. You just described what you saw, how it made you feel. You even used a filler word, which is totally natural. And fashionista, great vocabulary.
Yeah, it just came out, and it felt good. It felt like I was actually telling you a story, not just trying to pass an English test. And that's the key, isn't it? To make it feel like a real conversation, even if you're just talking to yourself or to your reflection in the mirror.
Absolutely. Talking to yourself is hugely underrated. It's a safe space to experiment, and that brings us to the next crucial point. Answer naturally. This means don't try to translate from your native language. When you see the question, let your English brain formulate the answer directly.
This is so hard for a lot of people, though, Miguel, because you've been doing it that way for so long. You read a question in English, and immediately your brain switches to your native language, crafts the perfect answer there, and then tries to translate it back into English. It's like a linguistic double knot.
It is, and it's a habit we need to break. One way to help with this is to force yourself to use new vocabulary you've learned recently. So if you just learned a few new adjectives, try to weave one or two into your answer. Don't overdo it, but just try to actively recall and use them.
That's a great tip. So instead of just answering the question with the easiest words, you're consciously pushing your boundaries a little. So let me ask you a question, Miguel. What's something you're looking forward to this week?
Oh, that's a good one, Maria. Something I'm looking forward to. Well, actually, I'm really keen on finishing this book I started last week. It's a nonfiction book about the history of artificial intelligence, and it's quite dense, But I'm just so curious to see how the author ties all the historical threads together and predicts the future. I've only got like 50 pages left, so I'm hoping to carve out some time this weekend to just immerse myself in it.
See? keen on finishing, quite dense, carve out some time, immerse myself, all natural phrases, and you didn't sound like you were, reciting a dictionary. You sounded genuinely excited about your book. That's what we mean by natural.
Exactly. It comes from genuine interest, and that's a big part of it. Choose questions that genuinely interest you or try to find an angle in them that does. If you're bored by the question, your answer will probably sound bored too.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about the length of the answers? Should people aim for long, elaborate responses, or is it okay to start short?
Great question. Start short, definitely. Don't put pressure on yourself to deliver a monologue right away. A few sentences are perfectly fine. The key is consistency. Do it every day, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Over time, those short answers will naturally become longer, more detailed, and more complex as your confidence and vocabulary grow.
Consistency is huge. It's like going to the gym, right? You don't expect to lift heavy weights on day one, but if you go every day, even for a short workout, you'll see results. And I think the no pressure aspect is vital. No one is grading you on this. It's purely for your own benefit.
Right. It's about building muscle memory for your English brain. When you practice answering questions naturally every day, you're training your brain to retrieve words and phrases in English directly, rather than going through that translation step. It speeds up your processing, reduces hesitation, and makes conversations so much smoother.
Order. I can totally vouch for that. I remember when I first started trying to do this, it felt awkward. I'd catch myself almost translating, and I'd have to consciously stop and restart the thought directly in English. But over time, it became much easier. Now, most of the time, I don't even think about it. The words just come out.
That's the exact progression we want our listeners to experience. And another benefit is that it helps you discover gaps in your vocabulary or grammar in a very organic way. You'll be trying to express an idea and realize, oh, I don't know the English word for that. Or, how do I phrase this particular nuance? That's a learning opportunity right there.
Exactly. So you make a mental note or even a literal note to look up that word or phrase later, and then the next day you try to incorporate it into your answer. It's a self-correcting, self-improving cycle.
Precisely. Let's try another one. Maria, what's a small change you've made recently that has had a big positive impact on your day?
A small change. Okay, I've actually started waking up 15 minutes earlier than I used to, and it sounds insignificant, right? Just 15 minutes, but it gives me enough time to brew my coffee and actually sit down and just quietly enjoy it before the whole house wakes up and the day gets crazy. It's just this tiny pocket of calm, and it really sets a peaceful tone for everything else.
That's a brilliant example, Maria. You explained the change, the impact, and even added a little detail about the tiny pocket of calm. That paints a picture, and it's all done very naturally. It makes me want to try it myself.
You should. It really works wonders. So, for our listeners, how can they find good questions? Any specific recommendations?
Definitely. You can search for Daily English Conversation Questions, ESL Conversation Starters, or 365 writing prompts. Even writing prompts can be adapted for speaking practice. Websites like ESL Discussions are great because they often categorize questions by topic, which can be helpful if you want to focus on specific areas of vocabulary.
Oh, that's smart. So if you're, say, planning a trip, you can look for travel-related questions and really immerse yourself in that vocabulary.
Exactly. Or if you're interested in current events, find questions related to news topics. The more relevant the topic is to your life, the easier it will be to answer naturally because you genuinely have thoughts and opinions about it.
And what about the environment where you practice? Does it matter? Should you be alone or can you do it with others?
Ideally, start alone. That removes the pressure of being judged by another person. But once you feel a bit more confident, try practicing with a language partner or even recording yourself. Recording can be incredibly illuminating. You hear your own speech, identify areas for improvement, and also appreciate how far you've come.
Oh, recording is terrifying but so effective. You catch all those little ums and uhs and places where you hesitated, but it also shows you how much you actually can say. It gives you a lot of good feedback.
It really does. It's like watching a replay of your own performance. And remember, the aim isn't to eliminate filler words entirely, because native speakers use them. It's about reducing excessive hesitation and making your speech flow more smoothly.
So, to recap, Find daily questions, answer them naturally without translating, start short, be consistent, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. It sounds like a formula for success, honestly.
It truly is, Maria. It's about shifting your mindset from passing a test to expressing myself. And when you make that shift, English stops feeling like a chore and starts feeling like a tool for connection and self-expression.
I love that. A tool for connection and self-expression. That's so much more empowering than just learning a language. It really encourages you to use it, to play with it, to make it your own.
Precisely. And for our listeners, we encourage you to start today. Pick one question, any question, and answer it out loud naturally. Don't worry about anything else, just speak. And keep doing it every day. You'll be amazed at the progress you make.
You really will, and remember, this isn't about becoming fluent overnight. It's about consistent, gentle practice that builds up over time. Every little answer is a step forward.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Maria. So on that note, we'd love for you to share your experiences with this method. What questions have you found helpful? How has it changed your speaking? Let us know.
Yes, absolutely. We love hearing from you. Thanks so much for tuning in to English Unloose today. We hope this episode inspires you to unleash your English speaking potential.
Thanks for joining us, Maria, and thank you all for listening. Until next time, keep practicing, keep speaking, and keep unloosing your English.
Bye, everyone. See you next time.